Hi everyone, this is Karak from Angrycentaurgaming. You may know me from my recent autobiography, Star 69, The Untold Stories of a Phone Sex Operator, and my newly released hit song, Put Your Penis in My Castle, by my band Aquatic Princess. So today I'm reviewing the early access title, Lord of Xulima, and there's about a 100% chance I'm pronouncing that wrong, but who cares? So why am I reviewing an early access title? Well, the moment a game asks you for money, it is in some kind of reviewable state. So want money? Then put up or shut up. If you don't like hearing a review for an early access game, then I'd say you need to leave ASAP, because like I told my wife last night before sex, this is gonna happen, so brace yourself. Lords of Xulima tells a tale of a man, or a god, walking into the world like Cain and stabbing, magicking, and shooting all manner of uncivilized beasts like a fantastical version of TMZ photographers. From Kickstarter, where the game gained a sort of cult following, all the way through early access, Lords of Xulima has had a fairly razor-sharp focus on what it would be. A fairly non-linear hard as Peter North RPG with Legend of Grimrock stylings. So does Lords of Xulima knock it out of the park, offering anything worth your hard-earned cash as an early release title? Or does it need to be put back in the oven to cook longer? Worse yet, does the game get Gordon Ramsay'd all over the place? First up is graphics, baby, because I'm a man and I am visual. Honestly, overall, they're fairly good. Though this isn't Divinity, the game doesn't lack for trying, standing somewhere below Divinity and Grimrock, but above games from other developers like GenForge and others. It may not have the graphical chops of Grimrock, but after fighting a chorus line of singing mushrooms vomiting on you in slightly different strange musical tones, I challenge anyone to say the game looks bad. Especially overall and for what they're asking. When traveling, you're in a 3/4 view, and while fighting, you're in a 3D view, which I have to say fits the game better than it would have if they had chosen one of the views to stick with. Throughout the land, an assortment of baddies will bash, vomit, stick, stab, magic, vaporize, web, burn, freeze, and otherwise treat you like a warded blight on the land. Most of the effects look good, with the enemies having various attack animations that go from just okay to good. Up next is sound, music, and voice. Sound. Listen, a game needs to offer some RESPECT to the sound spectrum, and Lords does that, from the previously mentioned mushrooms all the way to massive ogres that grunt their way to your destruction like a porn star trying to finish a money shot. The sounds are clean, where they should be, and don't interfere or sound needlessly artificial. One small gripe I had was towards shooting a bow, which sounded more like a hillbilly twanging a mouth harp in anticipation of a Burt Reynolds cameo than anything resembling the actual weapon. But overall, spells, weapons, animal attacks, it's all fairly good. Music. I really liked it. Overall ambient with some classical themes. The game's music never really seems to miss a beat. It doesn't enter Jeremy Soule territory, but then again, no one else but Jeremy Soule dares reside there. I liked it. It was never intrusive and had some good, interesting scores. Up next is voice. Listen, for what's there, I loved it, but like many games of this kind, the voice is used fairly sparingly. Intros and sometimes exits and then narration are all voiced, but the rest is a silent film of reading. Now, if reading bothers you or you have the attention span of a hummingbird, then you need not apply here, because the game offers a great amount of it throughout the course of the adventure. I did have one huge nitpick, in that some characters, in an effort to sound different, sound more like voice actors' lines were piped through a free source reverb and echo mixer. So you get that one of these things is not like the other moment, when everyone sounds normal, then a character suddenly sounds like they're in the Silence of the Lambs, just hanging out at the bottom of a well, waiting for rape or to have her skin worn by a deep-voiced stranger. All in all, I could have used more, but what's there is good. Up next, and most importantly, is gameplay. So you begin making a group that travels with an already created character, so yeah, you know this is gonna go a certain way. To make the game make sense as a narrative, you're forced to basically play as the little people in Time Bandits and not Kevin, or all the characters in Willow besides Mad Mardigan. However, due to the way the game plays, this is hidden for the most part, and quickly you jump into the action, a 3/4 view overland map that's fairly large and is apparently made of fish hooks, because your goddamn character bumps, sticks, and smashes into the environment. At times it was infuriating to walk around the land. The movement is a click to move affair, but you can also hold the mouse button down. The only problem is that if you get anywhere near something in the environment, I can guarantee you'll end up humping it for at least a couple seconds. This, coupled with somewhat of an overuse of 3D imagery on the map, means that sometimes you'll not know you can travel somewhere because trees, branches, rocks, or something else makes it look impassable. Once you get past those issues, you can see that the world is huge and filled with non-stop baddies on your spiritual quest. Within the game, you also have crafting and alchemy, which are fairly robust, if a bit simplistic, with you stealing everybody's blueberries and declawing dangerous animals like an Alabama recluse. There's also a basic food system built in as a survival mechanism, which is enforced but easily sidestepped by whacking the shit out of every bush you get near, stealing water from every barrel, and basically just robbing everyone blind, like these games have always seemed to encourage. Now, when you enter a battle, either on purpose or because the enemy set a trap for you and you blazed into it with all the force of a fucking meteorite attempting to bore to the center of the earth, you're then greeted by a fairly robust 3D battle view, with turn-based action, movement spells, skills, and item use all being fairly instinctual in their function. In battle, you can also move from the front to the back lines and from side to side to attack enemies you can't normally reach, and even try to run. But let's be honest, only two people run in this world, people allergic to bees and Kanye West fighting off a paparazzi drone attack. Wrong. You see, even in the very game's description, they call the game hard, and I'd have to attest to that, because as a person who likes hard games, this one broke my balls a couple times. The game has 3 difficulty settings, sort of like easy, medium, and hard, but I began calling them Jesus, Paxel, and CSI Crime Scene. Firstly, there's no warning that a monster might turn you into a surprise bloodstain on a sheet within seconds, and my lord, do you need to make sure you click the quick save button like a madman. Depending on location, numbers, ambushes, and somewhat sheer ambivalence, enemies range from fairly intriguing in difficulty to surprise you're dead. After a couple hours, I realized the world's the equivalent of fighting off the Ebola strain naturally while simultaneously kicking field goals from 50 yards out. I loved it and hated it, wanting to hug it and delete it from a hard drive in the same damn 4 minutes. However, because of the way the game is paced, that seems to be the designer's plan, and just when you think you can't, you can. It's that discovery of new skills, the use of new abilities, and the leveling up that they've programmed to really create a game that's a bit like Divinity in its digital meth addiction qualities. If you can suffer through what can only be described as a digital minefield laid down by someone with OCD, but here the mines are enemies, both hidden and visible. At this point, sadly, some issues do crop up. Issues like a somewhat unintuitive level up screen with various no turn back moments when you rethink a leveling decision only to find out that nothing can get you back home. Now you're like Dorothy in Kansas, just making guesses and relying on later decisions to get you out of the fucking mess. That being said, the game is insanely deep, and it took me many hours just to get out of the first area as I leveled up, geared up, took random jobs, got fucking gutter smashed, then rethought my method of gameplay and continued on. The reward here is a sense of accomplishment rarely found in other games, and though the story isn't amazing, it was captivating enough that I wanted to see where it continued to lead me. Listen, so what do you get with Lords of Xulima? The game is dangerously rubbing up against the release of Divinity, and though they don't share a ton of things in common, they're both large turn-based RPGs. Though again, they don't look much like one another, I do think that they may have an overlapping fan base. The big difference here is that Lords relishes in very old-style mechanics, and you're almost certain doom, time and again like clockwork, offsetting that with the reward of a task accomplished even if you're bloodied up afterwards. A fairly unapologetic game, it does give you a reach around by stimulating your risk versus reward thought patterns, offering up amazingly diverse areas, simplistic but then complex gameplay, and old-style trapping sure to attract people that enjoy that kind of thing. Hampering it is a 3/4 view map that spreads superglue and school putty on the character's body and then sets out to disappear you with all the intensity of a mob enforcer trying to kill you before lunchtime at the local diner. As you know by now, I rate games on a buy, wait for a sale, rent, or never talk about it again rating scale, and for Lords of Xulima, an early access game, I rate the game as a buy. Listen, it is not perfect. It isn't the greatest game of all time, but it is a fine example of risk versus reward and fight or flight in a game. The pacing and setup are done with an excellent eye towards negotiating your character's skills and level upgrades, with smart use of alchemy, crafting, spells, and potion use, and though at times getting around from place to place can feel like trying to pick up chicks right when the club opens, you always know that with time and perseverance, you're bound to get lucky sooner or later. So that's it. The review of this early access game is complete, done, finished. I am out. If you liked the video, hit like. If you disliked it, hit dislike. Share it, comment, do whatever, because life is indeed about choice, and I choose to be done. This is Karak talking to you from somewhere in the great beyond, because I have died 675 times. Peace out, bitches.